All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we're going to begin with our state all-purpose calendar. This is with the Fulton County State Court for today, April 13th, 2023 at 9 a.m. This would be a list of misdemeanor cases which have already been accused by the Fulton County Solicitor General's office. Individuals are going to be addressed from the Fulton County Jail who have received a bond but have still remained at the facility. Today, we're going to be addressing, among other things, possible plea announcements, whether the cases are going to be arraigned, or any other matters that the attorneys would like to address, such as bond modifications and so forth. If you are a defendant charged with one or more misdemeanor offenses, please keep this in mind. You have a right to remain silent about the facts and circumstances of your case. Anything that you choose to announce during the course of this virtual proceedings, your statements can and will be used against you. This entire proceeding is being recorded and live streamed, so please be mindful of your right to remain silent. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one of our attorneys from the Public Defender's Office or the Conflict Defense List will represent you. Who do we have in courtroom 2, please? Good morning.
Good morning, Judge Law. This is going to be position number 4, Mr. Robert Crawford.
Okay.
How you doing, Mr. Crawford?
All right. Mr. Dotis, good morning. Is that your client?
Good morning, Your Honor. It is. This will be a negotiated plea, and we would request to enter a plea of nolo contendere today.
All right. And Mr. Young, any objections to a nolo contendere plea?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. This is State versus Robert Crawford, 23 CR 001924J. Mr. Crawford was accused of battery from a March 29, 2023 incident. Mr. Crawford, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Dotis. May I place you under oath for the purposes of the plea?
Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Young, what's the recommendation?
Good morning, Judge. The recommendation in this case is 12 months served, 30 days, credit for time served, 15 days, no further contact with the victim, Michael Baker, and there's no stay away given the incident location being a business.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dotis, do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID, and does your client accept the terms?
Yes, Your Honor. We do so stipulate regarding the terms. We accept everything. I noticed on the offer it said balance probated, but because there are no conditions, we just ask it to read as balance suspended.
Mr. Young, I would amend it to balance suspended unless you intended him to be on probation.
We can suspend probation, that's fine, as long as he knows to stay away from Michael Baker.
Understood. It'll be balance suspended, Mr. Dotis.
Thank you. My client is clear on that.
All right. Mr. Crawford, have you consumed any medication or alcohol? Mr. Crawford?
Yeah, pay attention for me. Yeah.
And have you understood the proceedings that's been going on so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And has it been explained to you that if you decide to plead no contest to this charge, that you would have to give up your constitutional right to a trial, to go back and confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to one count of battery?
No contest.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 30 days, credit for time served 15 days, balance suspended. You are to have no further contact with Michael Baker. If you get arrested again for anything, I mean, your sentence is closed for this case. So please be mindful that if you are not allowed back at the Gateway Center, you cannot return. but they allow you to go back to that location. There cannot be any violent altercations. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And this will be a nolo contendere. Next case, please.
Next, we have position number 7, Mr. Carlos Flanagan.
All right. Mr. Carlos Flanagan is case 23 CR 001996D. Possession and use of drug-related objects, loitering and prowling, willful obstruction of an officer, and giving false information to an officer. These are the charges brought against Mr. Flanagan. And Ms. Flanagan, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Dotis. This is going to be a negotiated plea.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Flanagan, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge? You need to speak up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Young, what's the plea offer, please?
This judge, for the possession of drug-related objects, the plea rec is 12 months probation with alcohol, drug evaluation and treatment. For the loitering and prowling, 12 months probation, concurrent to the other offense. Stay away from 2480 Old National Parkway, or is it Highway? It's a Quality Inn hotel at that location.
All right.
And for the obstruction, 12 months served, 28 days, credit for time served, 14 days, the balance probated. And for the false info to law enforcement, 12 months probation. All the probation is to run concurrent.
Okay. Mr. Dotis?
Yes, sir. That's our understanding of the offer. The only thing I'd ask is that Mr. Flanagan has been held in custody and has gotten credit on all of these charges. So if we could have it worded as serve 28 days, credit for 14 days on all charges. So it all.
Yeah, I was going to do that.
Oh, perfect, Your Honor. You beat me to it.
All right. Do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, we do so stipulate to the 3 elements.
All right, thank you. Mr. Flanagan, if you put your hands down, please. Put your hands down. Thank you. All right. Have you consumed any medicine or alcohol?
No.
And have you understood everything so far? Have you understood everything so far?
Yes, I understand everything.
Okay. And are you satisfied with your attorney?
I'm satisfied.
Mr. Flanagan, if you decide to plead guilty to these charges, you will have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to be able to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights? Was that a yes?
I said prepared. Yes, I'm prepared.
Yes, you are prepared. Okay, I'm sorry. It's a little muffled with a mask, but I understood now.
Cool.
And Mr. Flanagan, are you entering this plea freely, willingly, and voluntarily?
Yes.
How do you plead to possession and use of drug-related objects, loitering and prowling, willful obstruction of an officer, and giving false information to an officer?
I plead guilty.
Your sentence will be concurrent for all 4 charges. It's 12 months to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days. With regards to the loitering and prowling, you would have to stay away from 2480 Old National Parkway. That's the Quality Inn Hotel. With regards to the possession and use of drug-related objects, you would have to complete an alcohol and drug evaluation and submit yourself to any treatment that's required. And with regards to the willful obstruction and giving false information, that's going to be 12 months given credit for the time you've served. You will report to probation next Thursday if you have no other holds. And you make any objection to non-reporting once he completes the alcohol and drug evaluation?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Once you complete your alcohol and drug evaluation and any treatment that's required, then your probation may be non-reporting. Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, we're gonna have position number 19.
Okay. I had Dennis Murphy on the Zoom. Is he still on the Zoom?
I don't see him anymore, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Kilbo, do you have a case on the SAP calendar?
Yes, Your Honor. Good
What's your client's name?
morning. Marquand Clark, position 1.
Officer, is Mr. Clark in the courtroom?
He's not in this courtroom, Your Honor. He's on the floors.
Okay,
Your Honor, I couldn't just say, I didn't ask to have him on the calendar. We're going to request a jury trial. I don't believe he needs to be present for that.
this is Marquand Clark.
Yes.
Okay, are you filing a waiver of arraignment?
I believe I already have.
Okay, if you have, that would be great. I think my litigation manager is just gonna check on that, and then if so, and you wanted further notice for jail jury, is that correct?
It had been previously assigned to the division. I don't know how it goes, whether it's jail jury or back in the division, either way.
All right, we're gonna do jail jury right now, and I think that does go back to the division, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, if that your only case?
That's my only case.
All right, Mr. Kilboy, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Murphy, who's your client? Who? Okay, Mr. McLean, we're going,
I,
yes, Mr. Murphy, I can hear you.
Judge, I've got Hassan Langford. He's position 11.
He's not in the courtroom, Your Honor. He's on the floors.
Okay,
Judge, I would say this, is that he's in custody on a no bond situation with a case with Superior Court. I had a medical procedure earlier in the week and I'm not cleared to do anything. So if you could reset me to next Thursday,
I'll do that. Thank you. And
because
that
I
would be-
couldn't do anything even if we reached an accord.
All right,
due to-
I hope you get better, sir. I'm so sorry to hear that, but we are going to reset it to April 20th at 9 a.m. And I hope you are hale and hearty by then. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you,
right.
Judge.
Take care. Mhm. All right. Position number 19, I have Quatuan Webb, 23 CR 001-929G. Mr. Webb is accused of criminal trespass. Mr. Webb, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. This is going to be a negotiated plea. May I place you under oath, Mr. Webb? Mr. Webb, please raise your right hand. Mr. Webb, good morning. All right.
Good morning, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Agbe, good morning. And
Good morning, Your Honor.
yes, sir, what do you have for Mr. Webb this morning?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation is 12 months on probation to serve 30 days, credit for time served 15 days, balance suspended, stay away from the Chevron at 556 Northside Drive, Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. And does he have other matters holding him at the jail?
I don't know if he's being held, but he does have a separate open criminal trespass case that wasn't called in today.
Mr. McLean, are you familiar with this other case?
No, Your Honor, I did hear about it. I don't know the facts of it. The offer and the facts of this case would indicate there would be no harm to him by going ahead today on this. It doesn't need to be global.
So this is, I just want to be sure that everyone understands he has another open case, and I'm just trying to, it's 22 CR 007-648G.
If the state has time to look it up, we could put this into the calendar, and if the state has time to look that up and deal with that today, we could. As long as
Absolutely.
I think that would be more prudent.
that would be efficient.
Okay, so we're going to address Mr. Webb's case as soon as we look at both matters. It looks like it was continued from a plea and arraignment calendar, so let's see if we can address both cases. Deputy, we're going to address Mr. Webb towards the end of the calendar, if we can have our next case.
And Your Honor, during one of perhaps Mr. Dotis's case, the state could call the extension 22392. When they find out about that other stuff.
I'll do that. Absolutely.
Yes, that would be 404-612-2392. That's the number at courtroom 2, Fulton County Jail.
Okay.
All right,
Your Honor, could you please provide me the first three numbers as well?
404-612-2392.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Is that correct, Mr. McLean? 612, right? Not 613?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right.
Position number 18, Ms. Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Dotis. He's put the number in the chat too. Thank you.
Greatly appreciate that.
Mr. Vickers, Your Honor, is not guilty. We waived the formal reading of the accusation, asked the court to let him know about what's going on, and that he'll be notified about further court.
Could you give me the position number again, please?
18.
James Vickers is accused of simple battery and criminal trespass to damage, both domestic violence in 22 CR 006618G. Mr. Vickers, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Mr. McLean has indicated that you intend to plead not guilty, and you've waived a reading of the accusation. I need to let you know that you are legally presumed innocent of these charges, and upon your entry of a not guilty plea, the case will be scheduled for trial. At the time of the trial, the prosecutor has the complete burden to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. If the state does prevail and carry its burden, you could be convicted of one or more of these charges and face a penalty of up to a year in prison and or up to $1,000 fine for each convicted offense. Given this information, Mr. Vickers, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
All right. This case has been arraigned and will be further notice for jail jury. Was that it, Mr. McLean?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
I have three. Yes, 3 South. Who do we have?
Position number 14, Mr. Price.
Thank you. Mr. McLean, I believe that's your client.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Price, that's a negotiated plea.
All right. This is State versus Vincent Price, case number 23 CR 002003J. Mr. Price is accused of criminal trespass from March 31st, 2023. I think that's his only charge. Am I correct?
I believe that is correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Price, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Mr. Michael McLean. He is in courtroom 2. Mr. McLean, could you please wave your hand so he could see you on the screen? Do you see him? Could we unmute 3 South?
Mr.
Price, do you see your attorney on the screen?
I see him right here.
All right,
Breaking Bad.
excellent. Thank you. We can mute the screen, mute 3 South again, please. Thank you. Mr. Agbe, what's the recommendation for Mr. Price?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation is 12 months on probation to serve 28 days. Credit for time served 14 days. The balance suspended to stay away from 1180 Virginia Avenue. That's in Hapeville. That is the racetrack in Hapeville.
All right, thank you. Mr. McLean, does your client stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID under these circumstances?
We do so stipulate, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Price, I'm going to have to ask you some questions. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge? You need to speak up?
Yes.
Thank you. Put your hand up. Have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood what's going on?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes.
And is anyone forcing you to enter a plea today?
No.
If you decide to enter a guilty plea today, you understand that there will be a trial. You will not confront your accuser. You will not be able to examine witnesses, challenge the evidence brought against you, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights? How do you plead to one count of criminal trespass? The sentence is 12 months to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days, balance suspended. Your jail time is concluded. If you have no other cases holding you at the jail, you'll be released within 24 hours. You cannot return to the racetrack at Virginia Avenue in Hapeville, Georgia. If you return to that location, we welcome you back to the jail with open arms. Do you understand?
Yes.
Thank you.
Y'all, position number 5, Mr. Colbert.
Mr. Lenoris Culbreth is position 5, case 23 CR 001925F, charged with battery from March 29, 2023. Mr. Culbreth, you have been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Dotis. And may I place you under oath for purposes of the plea? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Young, what is the recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. The recommendation in this case is 12 months served, 30 days, credit for time served, 15 days with the balance probated, no further contact with Brian Johnson, and 40 hours community service. The state would ask the court to sound for Mr. Johnson if he's present on the Zoom and wish to address the court.
Brian Johnson? Brian Johnson? All right. Mr. McLean, does your client stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, Your Honor, this is my client.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Dotis, sorry.
That's okay, we look alike.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Your Honor, we do so stipulate to the 3 elements for the purpose of this plea. I would ask if there's no objection to switch Mr. Colbreth to non-reporting status upon completion of the community service.
Only after he completes the 40 hours community service. Any objection, Mr. Young?
No, Your Honor, no objection from the state.
All right. Mr. Colbreth, have you consumed any medicine or alcohol recently?
No.
And have you understood what's been going on?
Correct.
And are you satisfied with Mr. Dotis?
Yes, ma'am.
Is anyone forcing you to do this plea today?
No.
And you understand that if I accept the plea, you will not have the opportunity to go back to court and have a trial to confront your accuser or challenge the evidence brought against you, including the right to examine witnesses, and have the state try to carry its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt and prove the case against you.
Correct.
And you're prepared to give up these rights?
Yes.
How do you plead to one count of battery?
No contender.
Is that the intended plea, Mr. Young?
That, Your Honor, my understanding was it was just a negotiated plea. If Mr. Colbreth would like to plead no contest, we can address that. My apologies.
Well,
I didn't see a NOLO on the information sheet you sent me, so I just need to know if Mr. Young has any objection. I don't know
No,
if he
Your Honor.
qualifies.
yeah.
I don't have no objection if he qualifies.
Well, has he entered such a plea to, what was his last conviction, if any? Where's he going? Culbreth, get back in the chair. My goodness. Has he pled no contest or nolo contendery in the last 5 years, at least to anything?
Your Honor, my client doesn't believe he has. If ASG Young has their pretrial, has anything else?
Yes, Ms.
Yes.
Tyson, good morning.
Yes, give me 1 second. I'm actually looking within the last 5 or 10 for one. So just give me 1 minute. I'm looking right now.
Thank you very much. Yes, it would be helpful if you indicate NOLO on the information. This would be for the defense attorneys, because that would help us see if the state has any objection to it.
My apologies, Your Honor.
No, no, I appreciate y'all just sending me the information, so thank you. Mr., at least right now I can see that he has, an open case for aggravated assault. And I don't know if that case has been resolved at the present time. And that was from a 2020 incident. And this is from a 2023 incident. So as soon as Ms. Tyson reports, I can.
Your Honor, if I may, looking at the criminal history, I see he pled NOLO 11/9/2021 to a driving while license suspended or revoked, but that's the only one I see so far.
All right, thank you. I'm just waiting for Ms. Tyson to.
That's the only one that I see also,
Thank
and that
you.
was in 2021.
Does he have an open felony case? Yes, he does. 22 SC 184458. That's before Judge Edwards. I'm not accepting a nolo contendere plea in the fact that he's got an open felony case involving violent allegations. So what would your client like to do, Mr. Dotis?
If I could have 1 second, if we could just mute so I can discuss.
Certainly.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're prepared to go forward with a negotiated plea of guilty. My client would stress that with his time in jail, he would request a financial break. If Your Honor could waive 1 or 2 months of probation in order for him to knock out his community service, that would be appreciated.
All right. I will do that. So just to repeat the information, Mr. Culbreth, I've already advised you that if you decide to enter a plea, that you would have to give up your constitutional rights to a trial and all the other enumerated rights set forth. How do you plead to 1 count of battery?
Guilty.
I'll accept your guilty plea. If you have no other holds, or if you are already on a bond that you've made in the other case we've referenced, then you should be released within 24 hours. You will be placed on probation. This will be a sentence of 12 months to serve 30 days, credit for time served 15 days, balance probated. While you're on probation, you will do 40 hours of voluntary community service at any nonprofit agency. I will waive your probation fees for the months of, for the remainder of April and for the month of May. And if you complete the 40 hours of community service, then your probation may be non-reporting. However, please keep in mind that you do have another open case, and you need to make sure you show up in court and you comply with all the conditions in that particular case. At all times, whether you are active or non-reporting probation, you shall have no contact with Brian Johnson. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That completes this case.
Y'all, position number 3, Mr. Cole.
This is State versus Justin Alistair Cole, 23 CR 001927B. Mr. Cole was accused of theft of service from November 24, 2022. Mr. Cole has been advised of his right to remain silent. His attorney is Mr. Dodis. And Mr. Cole, may I place you under oath for this plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you solemnly swear the information you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
So help me God. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Young, what's the recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor, the recommendation in this case is 12 months served, 32 days, credit for time served, 16 days, the balance probated. Stay away from 5775 Windward Parkway. It's in Alpharetta. It's the Hilton Hotel, and a restitution in the amount of $551.60.
All right. Mr. Dodis, does your client accept these terms, and do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, Your Honor, we do stipulate to the 3 elements for the purpose of this plea.
All right. Mr. Cole, have you consumed any medicine or alcohol recently?
No, Your Honor.
And has anyone, have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the services you've received from your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor. Excellent.
And are you entering this plea freely, willingly, and knowingly?
Yes, Your Honor.
And understanding that if you enter this plea, that you will not go back to court and have a trial, you will not confront your accuser, you will not be able to challenge the evidence brought against you or the witnesses who testify against you, as well as have the state prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you plead to one count of theft of service?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve on probation, to 12 months to serve 32 days, credit for time served 16 days, and then the remainder of the time will be served on probation. While you're on probation, you shall not return to the Hilton Hotel located at 5775 Windward Parkway in Alpharetta. And while on probation, you shall continue to report to probation every month until the full restitution amount of $551.60 is paid off. Those funds shall be paid directly to your probation officer, who will then remit the funds to the victim in this case. I will waive your probation fees for only the month of April and May.
Yes, Your Honor.
The rest of it, it's up to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Once the restitution is paid off, Mr. Young, any objection to termination of probation?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Young, the sooner you pay off your restitution, the less probation you would have to see.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I have a young lady who is in a white jacket. Her name is Tracy, and she is driving. We are going to remove her from the Zoom until she parks her car, and then she can reconnect with Zoom. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Courtroom 2, I will address you shortly. I'm going to 4 North. 4 North, who do we have?
Position 15, Mr. Pryor.
Okay, that would be Mr. McLean, I believe, or is this? Mr. McLean, I think that's your client. Okay. This is Darren Levon Pyatt, and Mr. Pyatt is accused of a misdemeanor offense in case 23 CR 001993J. Mr. Pyatt, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. And you have a right to an attorney. Your counsel is Mr. Michael McLean. Mr. McLean?
Our social worker is going to go up to the floor and visit him now.
All right. Have you spoken to him?
Yes, we have.
All right. And do you want, I see that he's going to arraign and enter not guilty. Do you want to?
What I'd like to do is have the social worker talk to him first.
Okay.
She's going to go up to the floor.
All right.
Report back.
All right. 4 North, I'm so sorry. I hope you can hear me. There's a lot of background noise. but we will have someone come by to interview Mr. Pyatt, and then we'll resume with this case. And Mr. McLean, please advise the social worker to advise Mr. Pyatt of the charge brought against him. I'm waiving sounding on that charge. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, she has the paperwork.
All right, thank you. 4 North, please mute your screen and someone will be there to talk to Mr. Pyatt. Mr. Adams, good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Edward Adams? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, you're on mute, sir. If you could identify your client either through audio. No, we can't hear you. Or you can do that in the chat.
Judge Law, he's our position number 2, Mr. Colbert.
Okay, I see. Thank you. All right, whenever Mr. Colbert is ready, then we can address that. And who do we have presently?
He's in the chair. This is Mr. Colbert in the chair.
Oh, he is. Okay, that's perfect then. Mr. Adams,
Yeah, we'll take the mute off.
all right, Mr. Adams, there is a icon on your Zoom screen. You need to unmute yourself. It looks like a little old-fashioned microphone. There we go. Voila. Good morning.
Right.
Do you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Lovely to hear from you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Adams, your client is in courtroom number 2, seated down there. Do you see him, sir, on your screen?
I do.
All right. And no, Miss Johnson, we have not addressed Mr. Stubbs yet. Okay, so going back to Abner Colbert, Mr. Adams, how are we proceeding with your client's case?
Yeah, if we could have a few minutes with the state, I think we could resolve it.
All right, have you received a plea offer from the state?
I have not.
Okay, Mr. Young, why don't you announce the plea offer so Mr. Adams can take it down?
Yes, Judge. It is, just a minute. The plea record is 12 months or 60 days, concurrent, the balance probated, family violence intervention program, no further contact with the victim, Anthony Bray and Kenneth Jones, and stay away from 911 Rosemary Avenue Southwest in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right, Mr. Adams, would you need to speak to Mr. Young or?
Is that committed time served?
No, it is balance probated to do FVIP, domestic violence intervention program. He'll be on probation.
I understand that, but okay. Any jail time remaining?
Sir, 60 days. I was it credit for 30 days?
Yeah, let me look and see how long see what time he has for this case. I know he's currently in custody from March of this year for a VOP where he's being held without bond.
Okay. So far, Mr. Adams, he's been in custody for 23 days. So he would have to serve a couple more days.
Yeah, if we can reinstate the probation, I think we have a deal, yeah.
All right. I'll let you and Mr. Young duke that out on chat or via phone. May we have a number that Mr. Young can call you?
Yeah, please, 404
Mm-hmm.
352
Okay.
3092.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.
All right. Next case, please.
Your position number 20, Mr. Tyrone Williams.
All right. And Mr. Young, if you'd like to put Mr. Adams, or if you want to call him now while you are, oh dear, Mr. Adams did not mute. Could the host please mute Edward Adams?
Hello.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Adams, we were just going to mute. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Can we do position number 17, Mr. Stubbs on 4 North?
Yes. Mr. McLean, I'm going to put Williams on deck and address position 17. Would that be all right?
That's fine.
All right. First addressing 4 North, we have State versus Ratavius Stubbs, case 23 CR 001-992C. Mr. Stubbs is accused of simple battery domestic violence from March 31st, 2023. Mr. Stubbs, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and your counsel is Mr. Michael McLean. Mr. McLean, please, if you could wave your arm just so he can identify you on the screen. All right, Mr. Stubbs, do you see your attorney?
No.
All right, put your arms down. Put your arms
Your
down,
Honor,
Mr. Stubbs.
in addition,
Thank you.
Ebony Johnson is.
Yes,
uh,
and yes, I see an
Sorry.
Ebony Johnson on the screen, and
Right.
I will let her speak as soon as timely. So is this going to be a negotiated plea, Mr. McLean?
Yes,
All right, Mr. Stubbs, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
yes.
All right, thank you. We can mute 4 North for a moment. Thank you. Mr. Agbe, what is the recommendation for Mr. Stubbs?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is 12 months on probation, 30 days to serve, credit for time served, 13 days, completion of a family violence intervention program, the balance probated, and for him to report the entire 12 months, 40 hours of community service, stay away from the incident location, 3743 Milford Place, Atlanta, and to have no further contact with Ebony Johnson. Your Honor, I do see Ms. Johnson. I have seen her messages today during the court hearing. I would ask that, obviously, as the victim, that we sound for her and give her the opportunity to speak. But the state would also express some major concerns from the facts of this case, Your Honor, that in this situation, officers did respond to a call where the officers made contact with the victim and saw the victim prior to realizing who she was, but that she was in presence of the defendant, and that she was advised not to alert the officers, that at this time she was pregnant, and she expressed a concern that the defendant would hurt her, and specifically that he might kick her in the stomach. Now, that's not the allegation. In this situation, he did bite her on the back, and officers did observe bite marks to the victim's back. But the fact that there was this coercion and threat, and that she was afraid to the point where when she saw the officer, that she was unwilling to alert that there was an issue going on, and that officers had to figure out who she was after the fact, because in presence of the defendant, she was too afraid. There's a major fear of domestic violence in this situation. So the state is very adamant about that, as a part of this plea, that the conditions be no further contact, the family violence intervention program, and that the probation be for the entire 12 months. Thank you.
And you do understand that he's got a fugitive hold from Iowa?
Your Honor,
unless that's been resolved, because right now I'm looking at it and I see that hold.
The state's unaware if that fugitive hold would be executed if I would actually come and get the defendant.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
I'm looking and I'm trying to search on that fugitive hold, but I haven't spoken to any law enforcement from Iowa to know if they in fact were going to execute that warrant and bring him back to Iowa to address any charges that he may have there.
Mr. McLean, you do realize your client is not going to be released on probation.
We discussed that, Your Honor, yes.
It's an extradition matter.
Correct. And sometimes they take 30, 60, or 90 days.
All right. Mr. Agbe, shall I proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Ebony Johnson, good morning. My name is Judge Law. I know you've been waiting very patiently. Would you like to address this case? If so, I would need your video back on.
I can't start video if you can hear me.
Unfortunately, you would need your video on.
It say that the host has asked you to start your video. Okay.
There we go. All right. Now, Ms. Johnson, would you like to say something?
Good morning. Yes, I would like to say, for the
May I
record.
place you under oath, please?
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you understand what the prosecutor was offering in terms of a sentence if the defendant, Mr. Stubbs, wants to plead guilty?
No, can I get that repeated?
Basically, he would be serving an additional 2 to 3 more days at the Fulton County Jail. And then he is entitled to be on probation to complete a 6-month domestic violence counseling program.
Okay.
And he cannot have any contact with you at all. He has to stay away from you at all times. However, there is an outstanding warrant for Mr. Stubbs from the state of Iowa.
Okay.
And he has to be extradited, that is transported to Iowa whenever Iowa comes to get him. So his probation will have to be delayed until he resolves the hold in Iowa. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I heard something about kicking in the stomach. I was bit in the back. That is true, but I was never kicked in the stomach. So I just wanted to go on record to clear that up.
Okay.
Now, as far as no contact, how does that work if we're about to have a child?
He has to stay 200 yards away from you. He cannot contact you in person. He cannot speak to you through a third party. He cannot call you on a phone. He cannot discuss you on social media. And if you both are not married, then the child is solely your custody and your responsibility. He has no custodial rights and no visitation rights to the child unless he files a legitimation action and obtains a court order establishing paternity, visitation, and custody.
Okay.
Do you have any other further questions?
No, so like the allegations for like kicking in the stomach and like the things
That
like
is not an issue right now.
Okay, so can I drop the charges or that's off the table right now?
The charges are going to move forward, and the issue we are addressing right now is whether he wants to plead guilty to the charges. You have no authority to drop the charges. That is solely the decision of the prosecutor.
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Do you have any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Agbe, may we proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. McLean, based on this information, does your client stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Well, Your Honor, we discussed all the elements and he does stipulate the 3 necessary elements. Your Honor, what I'm hearing is perhaps the court, well, this is a negotiated plea. Perhaps the court might want to consider no further violent contact if they have legal matters to deal with and if there are visitation matters to deal with if he were to file such a thing. But I don't think that would break open the fact that it's a negotiated plea. He and I discussed the pros and cons of going forward with this versus trial. Given the overall situation and the extradition matter, he asked to go forward with it.
Ms. Tyson, do you have the GCIC for Mr. Stubbs?
Yes, Your Honor, I do have one.
All right, please. If you could give it to us.
It looks like I don't have a Georgia one didn't pop up, unfortunately, but I do have one from Kentucky. Kentucky has 5 arrest cycles and a Michigan GCIC, which has 6 arrest cycles. For Kentucky, the most recent arrest that he has was for assault, which it looks like they didn't move forward on that. It says not prosecuted. And let me check the Michigan one.
Does he have any prior battery or ag assault or any kind of violent convictions?
It looks like that assault from Michigan was actually the only one. All the other arrests and charges were drug and, let's see, drug and traffic, like one traffic offense and the others are drug offenses. So it's just that one assault in Michigan.
All right.
Your Honor, if I
They
may add
didn't
that,
move forward on.
All right, and yes, thank you, Ms. Tyson. Mr. Aguilar?
that 2020 arrest was a DV case that was eventually not prosecuted.
Okay. Well, Mr. McLean, considering this outstanding fugitive hold and considering the nature of the charge, the DV charges brought against Mr. Stubbs, I am not going to amend it to no further contact. Of course, I've already explained that if he files a legitimation action, it can be up to a superior court to take these factors into account.
Understood, Your Honor. I think you meant no further violent contact, right?
He has, if he accepts the plea, it will be no further contact.
Correct. That's what I understand.
Correct.
Your Honor, he's confident. He's fully aware of the circumstances and the pros and cons and the procedures, and he wishes to do a negotiated plea today.
All right, thank you. Please unmute 4 North. Mr. Stubbs, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No.
And have you understood everything that's going on?
Yeah.
And you've heard from Ms. Johnson, you've heard from the prosecutor, you've heard from your attorney?
Yeah.
And you understand that you've got an extradition warrant out of the state of Iowa. Do you presently understand that as well?
Yep.
If you decide to plead guilty to this charge, to the charge of simple battery domestic violence, you understand that your probation will have to be suspended until your situation in Iowa is resolved, and then you'll have to come back to Georgia and serve out your probation time here. Do you understand that that's what's required?
Well,
what if I don't come back to Georgia? If
you don't come back to Georgia and you don't report to probation, probation will issue a probation revocation warrant, and there will be an outstanding warrant for your arrest that goes nationwide.
Your Honor, if I may.
Just a minute. Do you need to speak to your attorney about this?
No, what I wanted to ask was, if I live in Michigan and I go back to where I stay, is no way that I can get a transfer to where I stay at? Because I was only here because of Ms. Johnson. So if there's no more contact, there's no reason for me to be in Georgia. Can I do my probation in a state that I'm from?
Mr. McLean, go ahead.
Yes. This is a misdemeanor probation. FBIP is offered everywhere, and there shouldn't be any problem in him being in Michigan and doing FBIP from there and doing his probation from there.
I'm going to let the expert weigh in on this. Ms. Lewis, with JCS probation. Ms. Lewis, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
And could you please enlighten us? Mr. Stubbs wants to plead guilty today, but he will be extradited and he'll be placed on probation to do a FBIP class. However, he won't be able to start that until he completes his situation in Iowa. He's got an outstanding warrant there. He wants to, once he's resolved his Iowa situation, he wants to report to probation in Michigan in order to complete his obligations in Georgia. Could you tell us the procedure?
Well, he will still have to meet with or do a video call with his probation officer in Georgia, and then they can transfer him to Michigan.
All right. So as long as he reports to Fulton County probation, either through a video call or in person, they may allow him to complete his probation in Michigan.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. All right. With this information, Mr. Stubbs, would you still like to proceed?
Yes.
Mr. McLean, what do you think?
Your Honor, I think he's confident to proceed. I would mention that under the interstate compact for the supervision of adults, I think another option is he could also not transfer the probation to Michigan. He could just do phone reporting for Michigan as long as he does his FDIC. But,
No, I think I like the transfer and in-person reporting.
well, the receiving state on transfers has to accept it, Your Honor, and.
I understand. He's got an uphill battle to fix his life.
But, Your Honor, he does wish to move forward regardless.
All right. Mr. Stubbs, as I was saying, do you understand then that you would have to still complete Fulton County probation once your Iowa situation is resolved?
And how long is that probation?
It is going to be for 12 months, less 30 days. So it will be for about 11 months, during which time you would have to do a qualified family violence intervention program and 40 hours of community service and have no contact with Ebony Johnson.
So if for some reason I was revoked, how much county time would I have to do instead of like the 12 months? How much time would I have to do if I got?
I don't know. That would be subject to a revocation hearing.
So if anything was to happen, I wouldn't know the consequence of my action. That's not nowhere in the clause. Like, if it's clear that I got 12 months probation, but it's not clear that if I violated what I would get or how much county time that I would have.
So looks like Mr. Stubbs is not ready to proceed with this plea hearing. I can either reset it or I can put it towards the end of the calendar. Mr. McLean, he still has a lot of legal questions, and unfortunately, I'm not his attorney.
Right, I can talk to him on the phone, Your Honor, if we can have him either brought down to the courtroom or on the phone.
I plead guilty. Let's just get this over with, man.
I'm glad to answer any questions you have about the law. So let's get him on the phone or have him brought down, either one.
Sounds like a plan. Deputy, we are going to resume with Mr. Stubbs in a few moments. We can either resume him from 4 North or needs to be brought down to courtroom 2. How would you like to do it?
Up here in 4 North.
Okay.
Give him a call.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Ms. Blunt,
Next case, courtroom 2, please.
Your Honor, can we do a breakout with Mr. Dotis' laptop
Regarding which case?
regarding the 4 North case, Mr. Stubbs? So he don't have to put down. He can just do a
Okay.
breakout with.
All right, Mr. Dotis, is your laptop fired up?
Fired up and charged, ready to go, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. If Mr. McLean, we're going to do the Williams case, and then maybe the next case we can do Mr. No, who do we have next to Mr.? Is that Mr. Williams?
That was Mr. Williams, but I believe that's McLean's.
Yeah, I can do Williams, and then he can go to the breakout.
Okay.
This will be number 20, Your Honor.
Yes, and position 20 is going to be a negotiated plea, State versus Tyrone Williams, 23 CR 002. 002, that's the easiest case number I've seen. Designation C, accused of criminal trespass from March 31st, 2023. Mr. Williams, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. May I place you under oath?
Yes, ma'am.
Solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Thank
Your
you.
Honor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Agbe, what's the recommendation for Mr. Williams?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation is 12 months on probation to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days, balance suspended, stay away from 710 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia. Your Honor, that is, I believe, the Crest on Peachtree Apartments.
And Mr. Williams, does your client accept these terms, and do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, he does so stipulate, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Williams, have you consumed any medicine or alcohol recently?
No, Your Honor.
And have you understood everything that's going on?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is anyone forcing you or inducing you to do a plea today?
No, Your Honor.
You understand, and as Mr. McLean has gone over your rights, that you will not be able to have a trial. You will not be able to confront your accuser. No opportunity to challenge the evidence brought against you, or have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. You'll have to give up these rights. Are you doing so freely and willingly and not voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you plead to one count of criminal trespass?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Do you have any reason to go back to the Crest on Peachtree apartment complex?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, good, because unfortunately you are not invited there anymore. Understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
So your sentence is 12 months to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days. If you have no other holds, you should be released within 24 hours. And the balance is suspended. Do not return to 710 Peachtree Street. Otherwise, we will roll out the red carpet for you at the jail. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
All right, good to meet you. Your Honor, can we get back to Mr. Ed Adams' client?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much. All right, and will the host please place Mr. McLean, who is walking away with Mr. Dotis' laptop?
He's already in there, Your Honor.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. All right, we have State versus Abner Colbert, middle initial C, case number 21 CR 003542Y. Mr. Colbert is accused of simple battery and battery domestic violence. Mr. Colbert, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Ed Adams. Mr. Adams, again, sir, if you could unmute your screen, please. And Mr. Young, have you had an opportunity to speak? Yes. Have you had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Adams?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Mr. Adams, we can hear you. Sorry about that. Mr. Young, what were you saying?
We were able to reach an agreement on this case, so we're ready to proceed.
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Adams, can you hear me? Mr. Adams, I can hear you. Oh dear, his audio is not connected.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So, Mr. Adams, Mr. Young has indicated that your client is willing to accept a negotiated plea. Is that correct?
Yeah, I talked to him this morning. Yes, it's the same terms. Yes, he's ready.
All right. And Mr. Young, have you got the plea documents to send to Mr. Adams?
No, Your Honor, I do not, but I can work on getting them if need be.
All right.
But I can go over the new plea rec if you would like me to in the meantime.
Unfortunately, we need the plea documents completed. Mr. Adams, you would need to, if your client has given, okay, Mr. Adams, yes, what would you like to ask? So, no, Mr. Adams, Mr. Colbert, what did you want to ask?
Yes, ma'am. I forgot to tell Mr. Ed I had that ankle monitor on. Is there any way some type of leeway because I got the ankle monitor on?
Could you repeat your question? Lower your mask and repeat your question.
I said, can I get any type of leeway because I had an ankle monitor on?
All right, put your mask back on. All right. Mr. Adams, he has an ankle monitor on. Do you know what that's about?
Not this time. I will find out. Yes,
Okay. All right. Mr. Adams, are you near a computer or a desktop where you can receive documents and then speak to your client to go over his waiver of rights and his plea sheet?
Unfortunately not, John.
All right. And Mr. Young, would you be able to prepare the plea documents and send it to the jail so that Mr. Colbert can fill out the paperwork with his attorney on the phone?
Yes, Your Honor, I don't think that'd be an issue. I'm still trying to learn how to exactly do that. So I'm going to reach out to Deputy Falk to get that, see what I need to do to get that done.
Your Honor, as a friend of the court, I do have a blank plea packet. I'm happy to give that to Mr. Colbert while he talks to his attorney on the phone.
All right, appreciate that, Mr. Dotis.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Mr. Adams,
Yes, yes, John.
If you could write down this number, please.
Okay,
404-612-2392.
okay,
That is the number to the courtroom 2 at the Fulton County Jail. Your client will be waiting by the phone. He will have the form, the plea documents to fill out, and you would need to go over the plea sheet with him.
okay, yeah,
All right, this is a constitutional requirement, and I'm not going to move forward unless you have at least had an opportunity to go over the plea sheet with him and that you are comfortable that he understands his waiver of rights.
all right.
All right, so you can leave the Zoom and then reconnect again if you're comfortable doing that.
Yes, that'd be
Or
better.
you can make the call to the jail from another phone if you have that available where you are.
I can go ahead and leave and come back. That'd be good.
All right. Please make sure you reconnect with your video and audio when you come back, okay? Before
Okay.
you leave, Mr. Young, did you have something to add?
Yes, Your Honor. I was just wanted to tell Mr. Adams just to make sure that he understands what the plea rec is. It's 12 months served, 46 days credit for time served, 23 days, the balance probated, family violence intervention program, no further contact with the victim, Anthony Bray or Kenneth Jones, and stay away from 911 Rosemary Avenue Southwest in Atlanta. I do know that Anthony Bray does not live at that location anymore. However, Kenneth Jones may still reside there. So that's where the incident with Mr. Jones took place, was at the 911 Rosemary Avenue. But
And
that
Mr.
was the only
Adams,
thing.
in addition to that plea offer, please inquire into his question about ankle monitor. I don't know anything about it. Okay,
Really, John. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Courtroom 2, do you have any of Mr. Dodis's clients by any chance?
No, we do not, Your Honor. All the clients I have inside the courtroom are all Mr. McLean's and Mr. Derek Howard for the competency. I don't think. Hey.
All right. And will the host advise me of the status of Mr. McLean's breakout session?
We just got another defendant going to the courtroom. I believe it's to be Mr. Hardy, Saquon Hardy. I got stopped for a second. Mr. Dola still has to talk to him, Your Honor. Sorry.
All right.
Meeting is being
Did
recorded.
you ask about Mr. McLean's breakout session?
Yes, is Mr. McLean concluded his breakout?
But they just came out.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Jordan.
He should be on his way back into the courtroom.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Dodis, if you want to just close out the video on your laptop, we can proceed with Mr. McLean in the courtroom, in courtroom 2, with regards to Mr. Stubbs' case. All right. So, Mr. McLean, are we going? Oh, I've lost him.
He said he'll be right back in a second.
Okay.
That's what they wanted to do there. All right, there's gonna be another breakout session, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. McLean, we're returning to position 17, State versus Ratavius Stubbs. After your breakout session with Mr. Stubbs, how would you like to proceed?
He wants to go forward with the plea, Your Honor.
We're going to resume the plea hearing with regards to 23 CR 001992C. This is State versus Ratavia Stubbs, and we were in the process of addressing Mr. Stubbs' offer of the recommendations if he decides to plead guilty to 1 count of simple battery domestic violence. Mr. Stubbs, you're still under oath, and you've had your discussions with your attorney. So I'm going to ask you again, do you understand what's been going on so far?
Yes,
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
yes,
And are you still willing to move forward with this plea freely, willingly, and knowingly?
yes,
Is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take this plea?
no,
And Mr. Stubbs, as you've gone over the conversations with your attorney, you do understand that if you enter this guilty plea, that you will not have the opportunity to go back to court for a trial. There will be no chance to challenge this charge in a court of law. You will not confront your accuser, the witnesses. You will not challenge the state's evidence or have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay.
Excuse me. Are you prepared to move forward?
yes,
How do you plead to 1 count of simple battery domestic violence?
guilty.
Okay.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 30 days, given credit for 13 days, which means you have 4 more days to serve at the Fulton County Jail with regards to this sentence. Once you are completed the 4 days, your jail time is concluded, but you would have to be extradited to the state of Iowa. So therefore, your sentence for this particular case is going to be just suspended. You're going to have to resume it once you've resolved your issue in Iowa. Once you've resolved your issue in Iowa, it's your responsibility to report to Fulton County Probation, either via video call or in person. Then you will work with Fulton County Probation to report to Fulton County Probation via video call every month until the Fulton County Probation transfers the case to the state in which you are living, whether it's Michigan or wherever you designate the state where you are living at that time. Once probation is transferred to the state where you are living, then you will be required to report in person. Do you understand, sir?
Yes,
In the state where you're living. While you're on probation, you will complete a 24-week domestic violence program, and that program must be acceptable to Fulton County Probation. Once you've completed those classes, you will submit the certificate of completion to Fulton County Probation, as well as to the probation in the state where you're living. You are also to complete 40 hours of voluntary community service, and you may do so in the state where you're living or in Fulton County or in Georgia, wherever you decide to live. At all times, you are to stay away from 3743 Milford Place in Atlanta, Georgia, and you are to have no contact with Ebony Johnson, whether in person, via electronic device like a phone or a computer, or even through a third party or social media. This no further contact may be amended by a superior court order if you file a legitimation action in order to establish paternity, visitation, and custody with regards to any child or children that you share with Ms. Johnson. Do you understand, sir?
yes,
Okay. Mr. McLean, did you have any comment about the sentence?
Nothing further. We just asked the court to accept the negotiated plea and he stipulates the 3 necessary elements.
I already have. I'm just letting you know I've already sentenced him. Do you have any comment about the sentence?
Nothing further, no.
Mr. Agbe, do you have any comment about the sentence?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
And Mr. Stubbs, last question. Do you have any questions about the sentence?
no,
All right. Ms. Johnson, do you understand the sentence that's been provided to Mr. Stubbs?
No, can I get the sentence repeated, please? I just got the phone with the advocate, so I wasn't listening.
You are going to contact the victim advocate office and they're going to repeat the sentence to you.
Okay.
Mr. Agbe, if you need to clarify that with victim advocate, you may do so.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That completes this case. We are moving on to Mr. McLean's next case, courtroom 2. Mr. McLean, we have Mr. Payette, with whom you were yes, sir. How are you proceeding?
Your Honor, let's just do I will waive the formal reading of the accusation. He pleads not guilty. And if there's anything further, we're aware of other stuff. We will deal with that later, but just to do a not guilty today, I think would be fine.
Okay.
He does waive the formal reading of the court. We didn't know he'll have a future court date. We don't need to sound for the charge.
Thank you. I'm addressing Mr. Darren Payette. Mr. Payette, if you can hear me, please nod your head or say yes. Was that a yes?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Payette, this is case 23 CR 0019933. This is State versus Darren Payette. Mr. Payette, are you aware of the charge brought against you?
Yes.
With regards to this misdemeanor offense brought against you, which allegedly occurred on March 31st, 2023 in Fulton County, Georgia, you are legally presumed not guilty. And upon your entry of a not guilty plea, the case will be scheduled for trial. At the time of the trial, the prosecution would have to carry its burden of proof of beyond a reasonable doubt and prove the charge against you in order to secure a conviction. If the state carries its burden of proof and you are convicted, you could face a penalty of up to a year in prison and or up to $1,000 fine. Given this information, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
I accept your not guilty plea. The case has been arraigned and is going to be further notice for jail jury. Thank you, 4 North. That concludes this case.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I believe that there might have been a victim or someone associated with this case on the call. So if we could sound for them and let them know that this case
is let me see. Fayan, all I have is a Fayan Spalding. Fayan Spalding. I did see a Fayan, but I don't see one now.
Yeah, she might have left the call.
Okay,
But,
have your victim advocates division maybe contact her
Thank
and
you, Your Honor.
advise her of the situation. Thank you. 4 North, who do we have?
Position 16.
This is State versus Romartis Amani Redding. Case number 23 CR 0019931E. Mr. Redding has been accused of willful obstruction of an officer, reckless driving, and failure to report striking a fixed object from March 29, 2023. Mr. Redding is represented by private counsel. Mr. Redding, who is your attorney?
Chris Toes.
Repeat.
Chris Toes.
Chris Toad. All right. Is there an attorney on Zoom who represents Mr. Romartis Redding, Redding? I was right. Mr. Jordan or Miss Grace, do you have any information on private counsel?
I'm not showing an entry, Judge.
All right. Mr. Dodis, do you have any information about position 16 as to whether he's represented? I don't have an attorney's name listed on this case.
Your Honor, Attorney McLean, saw him, I'll let him address it.
Right. Your Honor, there's nothing further for us to comment. He says his lawyer is Chris Toll, so I'm sure he'll get hold of Chris Toll and tell him to come represent him.
All right. Mr. Redding, your attorney has not indicated that he's representing you on file. And based on the recommendation that the state has presented, I'm going to reset your case 1 week for you to get in touch with your attorney. Tell your attorney that they need to file the appropriate entry so that we know who is representing you. And also to let your attorney know that we're going to address your case on April 20th, next Thursday at 9 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So position 16 is reset for defendant to contact and verify his private attorney. Next case, please, 4 North. Do we have any additional cases? No? Okay, courtroom 2, we can take Mr. McLean's next client.
Your Honor, add on 1 and 2, number 1 and 2, Mr. Irvin.
That's a negotiated plea, Your Honor.
This is State versus Darius Irvin case. We are addressing 2 cases. This first case is 23 CR 002-133A, in which Mr. Irvin has been accused of theft by shoplifting from February 15, 2023. The second case is 23 CR 002-2224A, in which Mr. Irvin is accused of willful obstruction of an officer, 2 separate counts, allegedly occurring on April 7th, 2023. Mr. Irvin, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. May I place you under oath in order to address this plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Ekby or Ms. Falk, are you addressing this case? Okay, yes.
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
Go ahead, please. What's the recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. On position number 1, the theft by shoplifting, the state's recommendation is 12 months probation, 10 days jail, credit for time served 5 days, stay away from the Family Dollar, and an anti-theft course. And I will get the address for the Family Dollar shortly. On count 2, the recommendation is on the first willful obstruction, 12 months probation, 10 days jail, credit for time served 5 days, balance on probation. And that case is to run concurrent with 23 CR 002-133A. And that is to both counts 1 and 2 of the willful obstruction. And if Your Honor just gives me 1 moment, I will get the address for that Family Dollar where he is to stay away.
All right. And Mr. McLean, while we're waiting for the address, do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID for both cases? And and does your client accept the terms?
He does, and we do.
All right.
And Your Honor, I do have that address.
Yes, ma'am.
The address is 9145 Roosevelt Highway in Palmetto, Georgia, 30268.
Palmetto, Georgia. What that mean? Okay. Mr. McLean, are we ready to proceed?
Your Honor, my client wants to make sure that, he will stay away from the Family Dollar, but he wanted me to mention that the laundromat he uses is inside of 200 feet, and he hears that as a common phrase. And I think he can probably wash his clothes as long as he stays out of the Family Dollar.
Mr. Irvin?
Yes, ma'am.
I will not accept this plea and I will reset the case for
That's
trial.
fine. That's fine.
If you go anywhere near the Family Dollar store, you have to stay 200 yards away and you need to do your laundry at a separate location.
Yes,
Last time I checked the Constitution, you do not have a constitutional right to select your own laundromat.
Very good, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Irvin,
Yes.
have you consumed any medicine or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am. Very much so.
And do you understand that if you accept this plea, these 2 convictions will be on your record? and that you would not be able to go back to court and have a trial to challenge these charges in a court of law.
Yes, ma'am.
You will not have the assistance of counsel to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, challenge the state's evidence, and have the opportunity to have the state carry its burden of beyond a reasonable doubt to prove the charges against you.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to 1 count of theft by shoplifting?
Guilty.
How do you plead to 2 counts of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer?
Guilty, Your Honor.
With regards to all 3 charges, your sentence is 12 months to serve 10 days, when given credit for 5 days. If you have no other cases holding you at the jail, you'll be released within 24 hours.
Oh, and Your Honor, of course, in a case like this, we would ask the court to give him a financial break on the probation fees for as many months as possible. The theft, of course, will cost money and he is financially challenged.
All right. I will waive his probation fees for the months of April and May.
Thank you. Thank you.
While he is on probation, he is to complete an anti-theft class at his expense, and he will provide the information to the probation officer as to where and when he plans to take the class and when he'll complete that. And he must do so within 60 days of being released. At all times, he is to stay away from the entire location, 9145 Roosevelt Highway, Palmetto, Georgia. He's to stay 200 yards away, which will exclude every other shop or vendor located at that location. If there is 1 violation of his probation, I will give probation the authority to file an immediate revocation. Understood, Mr. Irvin?
Yes, ma'am.
I do not want to see you back in jail, so I'm going to make you stick to this. And of course, if we are back seeing each other again, I'll remember this.
Yes, ma'am.
He's going to get that theft class done, Your Honor. He's going to get her done, as he said.
Get her done.
Thank you.
That's the end. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, good to meet you.
Your Honor, position number 13, Mr. Moody.
Did you say 13?
13 Moody, that's not guilty. We would like to waive the formal reading of the accusation. I keep wanting to call it an announcement, the accusation, and ask the court to tell him about the fact that he will get further court notices.
State versus Dontarius Moody, 23 CR 001950H. Mr. Moody is accused of simple battery domestic violence from December 7, 2022 in Fulton County, Georgia. Mr. Moody, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. In this particular case, you are legally presumed innocent of the charge brought against you. Upon your entry of a not guilty plea, the case will be scheduled for trial. At the time of the trial, the prosecutor has the complete burden to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt and overcome your legal presumption of innocence. If the state prevails, you could be convicted and face a penalty of up to a year in prison and or up to $1,000 fine. Given this information, how do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Your case has been arraigned and is going to be further notice for trial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, Mr. Webb, position number 19.
Thank you.
Your Honor, this is Quatwan Webb, and that is a negotiated plea.
This is State versus Quatron Webb, case number 23 CR 001929G, accused of criminal trespass from March 29, 2023. Mr. Webb, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. All right, Mr. Webb, I understand that you are going to enter into a plea on your own volition. May I place you under oath?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You may lower your hand. Mr. Agbe?
Yes, Your Honor. This was the case that we actually set off because he had a second case. I've provided a recommendation to the defense on the second case, and I think that we're going to be resolving both cases today.
All right, so we are also addressing 22 CR 007-648G.
Yes, Your
And
Honor.
Mr. McLean, you would need to submit the plea paperwork for both cases.
Right, I'll get that case number, Your Honor, and submit such paperwork. This is going to require him to also have a stay away from a certain package store.
All right. And well, Ms. Ms. Grace is going to note that we're expecting 2 plea sheets. So don't make me have Ms. Grace chase you down for those, okay?
Oh, no, I'll come, I'll be at my office emailing things to you.
Excellent, thank you. All right, and Mr. Agbe, if you could address the plea offer for both cases, please?
Yes, Your Honor. In the earlier case, which is 2020 CR 0047648G, the state's recommendation in that case is 12 months on probation to serve 30 days, credit for time served 15 days, balance suspended. This is to run concurrent with the case 23 CR 001929G, to stay away from 1238 Friar Road, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia 30315. That is the All-American Packaging Store located at that location.
Could you repeat that address again, please?
Yes, Your Honor. 1238 Friar Road, Southwest.
Where? Okay. And what's his recommendation for the current case that we have on the calendar? Is that 12 months to serve 30 days, credit 15 days, balance suspended, stay away from the Chevron at 506 Northside?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. So Ms. Grace, that was 556 Northside Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, the Chevron gas station. All right, Mr. McLean, those are the plea recommendations for both the cases. It would be a balance suspended, and he would need to stay away from 2 separate locations.
Right.
Is that what your client has agreed to?
He understands which package store we're talking about. He'll stay away from there as well as the other location.
And do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID in both cases?
We do.
All right. Mr. Webb, have you consumed any medication or alcohol?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood that we are addressing 2 separate cases today?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you are entering a guilty plea in 2 separate cases?
Both cases.
Yes.
Yes.
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take this plea today?
No, ma'am.
I'm sorry, sir, but I have to make sure you understand what's going on. So you will need to sit up straight and face the camera.
He has a little trouble with his neck, apparently, Your Honor.
All right, but I still have to ascertain his voluntariness. Okay, Mr. Webb, if you decide to take this offer and enter a guilty plea in both cases, you would need to give up your constitutional right to challenge both cases in a court of law. You will not be able to confront your accuser, to examine and cross-examine witnesses, to be able to challenge the evidence brought against you, to present any defenses if you choose to do so, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you freely, voluntarily, and knowingly entering a plea in both cases?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to the 1 count of criminal trespass involving the Chevron gas station?
Guilty.
How do you plead to the 1 count of criminal trespass involving the All-American Package Store?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 30 days, credit for time served 15 days, balance suspended. To stay away from the 1238 Prior Road, Southwest Atlanta location, the All-American Package Store, in case ending in 1648G. In case ending 1929G, you're to stay away from the Chevron gas station at 556 Northside Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good to meet you. All right, take care.
Your Honor, we have Mr. Dupree.
Is Mr. Colbert ready also with Mr. Adams' case? Colbert, sorry.
We already,
Okay. Let's take the first case you just called, Deputy.
You want Mr. Colbert, or you want Mr. Dupree?
Mr. Dupree, that's the first one he called, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Dupree. Mr. Dotis, is that your client?
Your Honor, I don't see a Dupree on our calendar. That's competency calendar.
Is Mr. Derek Howard available?
He's not in the room right now.
All right. I see it's on the Zoom, but we'll have to do a breakout on this one. So, Deputy, this case is not to be addressed until 11 o'clock or until we complete SAP. So, we can take Mr. Colbert then until the attorneys for the competency calendar are available. Thank you.
And Your Honor, I'll be handling the competency calendar today.
Oh, I see.
Mr.
Okay.
Howard.
I appreciate it. Thank
So
you.
when he's ready, I'll be ready.
Excellent. Thank you. We are resuming the case with Mr. Abner Colbert, represented by Mr. Edward Adams. Mr. Adams is also on the Zoom. And as soon as he unmutes, we will be able to proceed. All right. Mr. Colbert, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney and who's representing you. And also, I think I need to place you under oath. I honestly don't recall if I've done that. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Have you filled out the documents that the court, that the Mr. Dotis had presented to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you filled it out with the advice of counsel, Mr. Adams?
Yes, ma'am. He was on the phone.
And was he able to explain to you everything with regards to the form?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have any questions about the forms that you were filling out?
No, not really, no.
Okay, in that case, we will proceed. Mr. Young, what is the plea recommendation for Mr. Colbert?
Your Honor, the plea recommendation for the simple battery and battery family violence is 12 months served, 46 days. Concurrently, credit for time served, 23 days. The balance probated, the Family Violence Intervention Program, no further contact with victims Anthony Bray and Kenneth Jones, and to stay away from 911 Rosemary Avenue Southwest in Atlanta. We would also ask the court to sound for the victims when appropriate.
Are Anthony Bray or Kenneth Jones or Kenneth Jones available? All right. Mr. Adams, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you've heard the plea recommendation. You've gone over it with your client. Do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID for both charges?
Yes, Your Honor.
And does your client willingly accept these terms according to your counsel?
He does.
Thank you. Mr. Colbert, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am. I want to ask a question, though. One question.
Go ahead.
I'm in here on violation of probation. I want to know that if while I take this 12 months, is it go reflect on the probation that I'm already on?
Yes, it will. It will be a conviction on your record. And if you have a open probation case, I hope your attorney has already counseled you on what could happen, the possibilities. Do you need to speak with him about the possibilities?
Yeah, but they different. They different. Like this is a misdemeanor, and the one I'm on is a felony.
Your Honor, I explained to him that you have no knowledge of the probation he's on, but this would be a violation of his probation. What that'd be up to the other people that put him on probation to decide. I told him all that.
Which jurisdiction is this other probation?
Superior Court.
Fulton County?
Fulton County.
All right. So, Mr. Colbert, if you have an open probation case in Fulton County Superior Court, it would be up to the judge and your probation officer for that case to decide how they want to proceed if you enter a guilty plea in this case.
Oh, okay.
Then you will be placed on misdemeanor probation in this case. And that will have nothing to do with the felony probation.
Oh, okay. I understand.
But the decision on what happens in the felony probation is entirely up to Superior Court.
Right, okay, yeah, I
So
understand.
given this information, would you still like to proceed with this, or would you like to reset it for another day?
I'd like to, continue on with it.
All right. As I was saying, are you satisfied with the representation with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you entering this plea freely, willingly, and knowingly?
Freely.
I'm sorry?
Yes, ma'am.
Is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take this plea today?
No, ma'am.
If you decide to enter this plea, you would have to give up your constitutional right to challenge these charges in a court of law in front of a judge or a jury. You would have to give up your right to have the assistance of counsel so that you can challenge the state's evidence, examine your own witnesses, confront your accuser, present any defenses if you choose to do so, and have the state try to approve the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
And you do understand that entering this plea could have a negative impact upon any other open cases you may have, probation or otherwise.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to 1 count of simple battery and 1 count of battery domestic violence?
I plead guilty.
Your sentence will be concurrent for both charges. It's 12 months to serve 46 days, credit for time served 23 days. If you have no other holds, you will report to misdemeanor probation. And once on probation, you will complete a 24-week domestic violence intervention program. You must begin that program within 60 days of being released. At all times while you are on probation, you have to have no contact with Anthony Bray and Kenneth Jones. You have to stay 200 yards away from them and not communicate with them in any way, form, or manner, including a third party or on social media. You're also to stay 200 yards away from 911 Rosemary Avenue in Southwest Atlanta. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Colbert? That concludes this case.
Yeah, that's it. Come on.
All right. Mr. Dotis, if you could assist with making sure those plea documents are emailed back to Miss Melissa Grace.
Yeah,
Okay, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And Miss Grace, if you could forward a copy of his completed documents to ASG Young and to Mr. Edward Adams.
All right.
Miss Grace, do you have Mr. Adams' email by any chance?
No, ma'am, I was just about to ask for it. Can he put it in the chat? And I will send everything over to Young and Mr. Adams.
Mr. Adams, what's your email?
Lavance, LAV, as in Victor, ANCE, ADAMS at yahoo.com.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Adams, we've concluded this case. Do you have any questions?
No, Young.
All right, thank you very much for appearing. I appreciate it. Thank you. Courtroom 2, who do we have next?
The only one we have, Your Honor, is Dupree.
Okay.
I know.
Mr. Derek Howard, are you available, sir?
Your Honor, his laptop is in this room, but I think he might be speaking with clients in the jail.
All right. While we are waiting for Mr. Derek Howard, I'll go over the SAP calendar, please. Whenever Mr. Agbe, Mr. Young, Mr. McLean, and Mr. Dotis, y'all are ready?
Ready when you are, Your Honor.
All right. On the add-on calendar, Darius Irvin, those were both were pleas. Position number 1, Marquand Clark, was arraignment and further notice jail jury pursuant to his attorney, William Kilbo. Position 2, Colbert, was a plea. Position 3, Cole, was a plea. Position 4, Crawford, was a plea. Position 5, Culbreth, was a plea. Position 6, Nicholas Fernandez. Attorney is Robert Booker. Mr. Booker has not made an appearance. Mr. Fernandez, is anyone has any announcement for this case? Mr. Jordan?
Did I
Yes.
put in the chat earlier? His attorney filed a conflict. So I called his office yesterday and he said he had a jury trial this week. So he asked for a 1-week reset.
All right. Nicholas Fernandez is reset to April 20th, SAP. Position 7, Flanagan, was a plea. Position 8, Hardy. We're going to, Mr. Dodis, do you represent it?
Yes, Your Honor, we were held for announcement, but I did speak with Mr. Hardy. He's waived his presence at arraignment and will be entering a plea of not guilty today.
All right, if you can make sure that the waiver arraignment is submitted to Ms. Grace, or if you've already done so, then disregard. And this case, thank you. And this case is going to be further notice jail jury. Position 9, Richard Hollis. I have a do not bring. Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor, that's also a waiver of arraignment and presence that I will file.
Waiver of arraignment or waiver of presence or both?
Both, Your Honor, and a not guilty plea, and I'll have that paperwork ready to go.
All right, thank you. So this will be further notice for jail jury. Position number 10, Zakia Johnson. I've got a reset requested. Mr. Dodis, is this going to be reset to SAP April 20th?
Grace.
Position 10.
My apologies, Your Honor, I was assisting with the paperwork. I think I requested a 1-week reset to have a social worker visit.
All right. So are you planning to file an evaluation anytime soon?
Not until after I have a social worker visit to see where we should go from there.
All right, Ms. Grace, we'll have to reset this to April 20th, subject to an evaluation being requested. Mr. Dodis, for purposes of scheduling, if an evaluation is requested, please inform Ms. Grace so that we can adjust it from the April 20th calendar and give you another reset date pending the evaluation outcome.
Understood, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Position 11 is reset to April 20th, SAP per counsel, Mr. Dennis Murphy. This is a medical reset, a medical leave reset on behalf of counsel. Position 12, Justin Mitchell. Sorry, Mr. Dodis, one last one before.
I
Mr.
apologize, Your Honor. I didn't mean to leave you hanging. Yes, Your Honor, position 12 will be a waiver of presence and arraignment, and we'll be entering a plea of not guilty, and I'll have that paperwork sent out shortly.
Thank you. All right, that will be further notice jail jury. The remainder cases are Mr. McLean's, position 13, Mr. Moody has been arraigned and further notice jail jury. Position 14, Price was a plea. 15 is Hyatt is a waiver of arraignment. I'm sorry, the case was arraigned and further notice jail jury. Position 16, Redding, is reset to April 20th for the defendant to identify his attorney and for private counsel to file an entry of appearance. Keeping in mind that the PD's office may have to chime in if there's no private counsel.
Your Honor, he doesn't wish to speak to us.
All right, thank you. Position 17, Stubbs is a plea. Position 18 is arraigned and further notice for trial. Position 19, Webb was a plea. Position 20, Tyrone Williams was a plea. All right, that concludes the SAP calendar and the add-on matter. We'll be in we unfortunately have to be in recess until Mr. Derek Howard chimes in to address the competency calendar. We can, in light of that, we can
You ready to go, Derek?
stop the live stream, please, Mr. Jordan.